Okay, so from where we left off last week, we got our detail page working. Let me pull that up real fast. Okay, so we have our detail page working. And hopefully you were able to also get the error process working. And if not, you will probably want to go through my review. I have a review put up that you can access from last week in the course. But as long as this is working and everything's rendering on your local host and on render.com, then we're good to move forward. So the first activity is sessions and messages. And what we're going to be doing here is setting up sessions like it says, and also displaying messages for users. We're going to be practicing some data validation this week, and with that data validation, what we need to do is display an error, or sorry, a message saying, hey, you didn't fill out this information correctly in our form. So let's go ahead and go over kind of what a session is. So what is a session? In a regular interaction with you and your browser and a server, it doesn't store anything. You might have seen the word cookies out there, and so your browser will store cookies, and you might need to clear your cookies because it holds information that might be causing issues or what have you. But cookies only last for a certain amount of time, and they are stored on the client side. A session is something that is stored on the server side, so that servers and developers and whatnot can use the session information to understand how people are interacting with their website. It is a lot like cookies, but unlike cookies, you cannot clear it yourself. That is stored on a database somewhere typically. And so it creates a stateful interaction. They're used by the web server to remember that a client has authenticated. And that's what we're going to be using sessions here for, as well as to just check to make sure someone has been authenticated into our system. We're also going to be displaying messages, like I said, because we are going to be displaying, hey, you are logged in, or sorry, we could not log you in. Please check your credentials again. We're going to be implementing a flash message. It's a unique implementation of messages. It's stored in the session, it's displayed in the view, and then immediately or automatically removed from the session after it has been shown. So we don't have to unset it or do anything like that. We just set it and then it unsets itself. He says it's like a flash on a camera. It fires and then it disappears. So that's why it's called a flash message. It will not be saved or stored anywhere. In the previous version of this class, we had a PHP message, and that would just stay in the session until we cleared it ourselves. This we do not have to do. So that is really helpful. Now we're going to be adding we are going to be adding 4 new packages. So go ahead and go into your VS Code. I'm going to stop my process and open your terminal. Copy and paste the code here that is shown on the page. And fingers crossed, everything works. It's always a guessing game. So it looks like these dependencies were successfully added. And you'll be able to see them in your package.json. You can see we have express messages, express session, and PG. I think that was actually already there. We have connect flash and connect PG simple. So we're going to go through what all of these are real fast. And how to apply them. So let's see. I guess actually first he wants us to start applying them, and then we'll talk about them as we go through. So we're going to open up server.js. Let me close out collapse all of my folders here so that we don't have a billion folders open. Okay, I'm going to open up server.js. And then at the top in the require statements, we are going to require session, or sorry, express dash session, and we're going to require a database, yeah, our database file. Okay, beautiful. Ensure there are no errors, and then we'll continue on. So let's see, express session is what is going to allow us to create a session in our application. Let's see. He says that Connect PG Simple Express sessions should not be stored in memory. The preferred method is to place the session information to a database. Since we already have the database present, we're going to use it. And to make it easy for the session to interact with the database, the Connect PG Simple package handles everything for us. It is a package built specifically to do this. It does not have a setup just for itself, rather it's part of the session configuration. So this means that we don't have any extra work to do after we implement this middleware. It's going to store it in the database for us automatically. So still working with server.js, scroll down to the View Engine and Templates area. Okay, right here. Should be at or around line 20. And let's see, add several lines above it, and then we're going to add this middleware, which is, again, middleware is something that is going to be used in between the request and the response. We're going to add it here. Okay, I'm going to actually add an extra line there. Okay, so we're going to go through this now. Oh, you know what? What am I doing? I'm supposed to be going, I should have these, my view split. Yeah. So let's see. Lines 1 through 3, these are just a comment. Line 4, which is line 23 in my code, it invokes the app use function to indicate the session is to be applied for the application. And he says that recall that app.use applies whenever or whatever is being invoked throughout the entire application. Line 5, which is 24 for me, store is referring to where the session data will be stored in this code. We are creating a new session table in our Postgres SQL database using the Connect PG Simple package, which is being required at this point. Okay, notice let's see, the curly brace at the end of the line indicating a new object being sent to the connection with configuration information. So you can see that we're going to be creating, if the table is missing, let's go ahead and create it. Let's see, and then we're going to be giving it our connection, which is our pool, our connection pool. Let's see, line 6 tells it to do let's see, to create the table if it doesn't exist, like I said, use our connection pool. We're going to close the configuration. Line 9 adds a secret name. This will be used to protect the session, and we'll create the value in our .env file later in this activity. Line 10, the session stored, this session for the session in the database is typically false. This is the resave. Let's see, but because we're using flash messages, we want to resave the session table after each message, so it must be set to true. Line 11, the setting is important to the creation process when the session is first created. So save uninitialized session, which is what we want to do. Let's see, and then line 12 is the name we are assigning to the unique ID that will be created for each session. So this is our name. We're going to be going over name value pairs soon, but this is a parameter basically that's going to be sent as a name value pair, and the secret ID will be, or sorry, the session ID, the actual session ID will be sent as the value. So now we're going to be creating a session secret. It says go ahead, let's see, and open up your .env file. Beneath the existing name value pairs, And so I guess we haven't really gone over this. These are name value pairs. This is a name, port is a name, 550. The host is localhost. Our node environment is a name, development is the value. Our database URL is the name, and the actual URL is our value. We've already gone over these, or we've already used these to some extent. So let's go ahead and comment this because I like to do this. Let's see. Did I name that right? PG Simple Session, or is it? Oh no, it's Connect PG Simple. Let's see. Actually, I believe it's just our Express session, so we're going to use that. There we go. Okay. With the name in place, let's create the actual value for the session secret. It's critical that the secret value be random, so it cannot be guessed. We will use a built-in Express function to do it. So we're going to open up a new terminal. Okay. And we're going to type, let's see, node. Great. And we're going to type this, or I'm going to say go ahead and just copy it because this is a lot and we don't want to mess this up. Okay, so I pasted it here in my terminal by pressing my the right click on my mouse, and I'm going to click enter. Now we're going to want to copy this. We can go to File, Edit, Copy. If you press Control C, it's just going to exit. I guess you have to press it twice. Either way, we got our session secret there. I pasted it here in the code. Save it. Wonderful. This file is for only testing locally. And he says because it's our intent to deploy this to a live server, the values that were just created also need to be present in our production environment. So let's go do that now. In our, let me open a new browser here and go to render.com. We're going to use the GitHub login as usual. In the dashboard, we're going to click on our web server, which is this first one. We're going to click on the environment. This is where our environment variables for our production server are. We're going to add an environment variable called session secret. And then we are going to copy that same code again, or that same secret again, and paste it. Let's see, we want to make sure that everything looks good, and then we're going to save changes. When the save is complete, ensure that the new item has a small check mark at the bottom right corner of the value text area, which it doesn't give us a little check mark. So I guess don't worry about that. I'm not entirely sure because I don't see that there. You might see it. I do not. The value will be replaced by bullets to hide the value. So I'm guessing it was just before I click Save Changes. But it shouldn't have. Anyways, whatever. We're going to move on. It looks okay. We copied and pasted. It should be okay. So now let's test. We're going to check that the server.js file has been saved. We're going to run our file here, or our local server. Okay, and we're going to go to our site real fast. We're going to use the web developer toolbar and click on, let's see, cookies. And we want to look at, I believe it's view cookie information, yeah. There should be a cookie named session ID. So let's scroll in here and look, it looks like we have one right here. There should be a cookie named session ID, and it should indicate that it expires at the end of the session. It says it right here. Let's see, there we go. If the cookie is present, things worked. If not, reach out and get some help after reviewing your code and comparing against the code in the activity. So hopefully this is working for you. If not, back up and make sure that everything was done step by step as we just went through. I'm going to close this out now. We're going to go back into the code itself, and he says in the server.js file, create a few empty lines beneath the session code you just wrote. So this middleware that we just wrote, create a few lines, add the following code, and we're going to review it. So this is saying, hey, here's our comment on line 1. It requires the connect flash package, and we're going to use it throughout our entire application. Line 3, we're going to again use another, we're going to apply the app.use function, and we're going to pass it a parameter, and it's going to accept our parameter of function, that is our request or response, and our next parameters. Line 4 is the express messages actual package that is required as a function. The function accepts the request and response. The functionality of this function is assigned to the response object. You can see response.locals.messages using the locals option and a name of messages. This allows any message to be stored in the response, making it available in the view or in a view. And then in line 5, we're going to call the next function, passing the control to the next piece of middleware. It allows messages to be set, pass on to the next process. Eventually, when a view is built, the message will be displayed in it, and then because it's a flash message, it's just going to disappear. So he says visually check, save the file, and move on. So now we're going to set up the message code in a view. We're going to find and open our index.ejs in our views folder. And this was our home page, right? In the view, there should be an H1 and then a commented, he says create an empty line beneath the heading and add this block code. Well, this code was already there. We just need to uncomment it. So I'm going to uncomment it, and you know what? That's because I have it copied from before. So go ahead and copy this line and paste it underneath your H1. And he says if you were to go to the Express Messages documentation and look specifically at rendering message at the rendering messages section, you will find that the code block will actually set up an unordered list to display a list of messages. In other words, in the package is a loop built into the structure, and it's going to display all the messages depending on how many have been set. So we're probably going to have to be doing some CSS work with that because we may not want a whole bunch of messages being sent. I'm not sure. But we're going to go through this together. So let's create a message and a test. Open up our base controller. So our controllers, base controller. In the build home function here, create a line just above the response render. So right here. For me, it's between line 5 and line 6. I'm going to create an empty line 6 and add this code to line 6, which is request.flash. Notice this is a flash message. There are 2 parameters. The first indicates the type of message, and then this is the actual code in there. It says you can write CSS rules using these classes to style your message. He says if you right click on the messages in the view, you'll find that the value is added as a class to the unordered list. Okay. And you can write a CSS rule using these classes to style your message. He said you should do this. You should also predetermine some simple names to use consistently. For example, notice can be used for information or info or whatever, while error would indicate that there's an error. So the second parameter is the actual message. We're going to save the string, or save the file, sorry, And then we are going to, see, we are still listening on port 5550 for me. For you, it should be 5500. Let's go ahead and open this back up and refresh. Oh, you can see this is a flash message. So let's go ahead and inspect this guy. I'm sorry, this is going to be a little squished because I have the window split. And you can see that we have ID of messages, the unordered list, class as notice, and we have a flash message. So what we want to do now is go ahead and style our notice here. As long as it's all working, let's go ahead and style this appropriately. Okay, so I have created just some styling around my message. Okay, so let's see, go back into this. And he goes ahead and says to stop the server. So let's go into here and stop the server. Okay. Here's my message right here. Okay. It says, while this may seem like a lot of setup, it is a one-time event. From now on, if you need to send a message from a controller to a view, when using the response.render or response.redirect, you can, alright, you can. Sorry. It makes moving messages around very easy. So all we have to do is just add this little piece of code here saying, hey, this is a message. I'm going to go ahead and comment this out because I don't want it there. So that we have created our sessions and messages, let's go ahead and move on. We're going to be delivering a login view. We're going to get into forms here. Again, like I said, data validation, and we are going to be processing people trying to log in and create an account. I believe it's create an account. Yeah, the registration view. Okay. So let's go ahead and open up our header.js. Remember, it's in our views folder, partials, header.ejs. And you see this my account path right here. You will see the value has been sent through the request object. The account, this is the controller, and login is the request. The request expects a login view. So step one is to build an accounts router that will handle the request. So we're going to go and let's see, using the inventory route as an example, go ahead and build a new account route. So let's open up our routes. I'm just going to copy the inventory routes. Let's see, copy, and then I'm going to paste it. There we go. I'm going to rename it to account route.js. Okay. I'm also going to remove these routes that we've already created. Okay. And we're going to need to include an accounts controller. So instead of inventory controller, it's going to be an accounts controller. So real fast, let's see. This is the name of the accounts controller. It's going to be account controller. I just wanted to replace that now so we don't forget about it. Okay, so we have our Express EJS. We have, or sorry, our Express, yeah. And then we're using our Express router. We are creating, I'm going to, instead of naming this env account or env controller, it's going to be account controller. Okay. And then we have our utilities constant here. We're bringing in our utilities file, sorry. Let's see, add a get route for the path that will be sent when the My Account link is clicked. The get route must use a function of the account controller to handle the request and the error handler middleware to deal with any errors. Okay, so I'm going to open up our inventory route. We already have all this in here, so I'm going to go ahead and just copy this code as an example. And we already know, based on this code here, we're going to be going to the account and we're going to be going to login. This is the view that we want to show. So go ahead and open up your account. This is the view that we want to send through. So he says, note, within this router file, the route should reflect only the part of the path that follows the account, the quote account. The account part of the path should be placed in the server.js when the router is required. So we'll do that in a second. Right now we just want login. We're not going to give it any parameter. We're just going to leave it alone. And we know that this is going to go to our account controller here. And we're going to probably show, say, login view. Okay. Let's see, we wanted to add the the error handler there, and that everything is exported as necessary. Now we're going to make this account route active. We need to go to our server.js, and we have our inventory route here. So I'm going to copy this and just use account. Account route, and this is going to say account because, again, in our header we have account/login. We've already set this name up, so let's use it. It's going to go to our account route. So let's go ahead and save this, make sure that all of our files are saved. They are. And now we're going to start building our account controller. Let's see, in the controllers folder, create a new account folder or a new account controller.js file. So new file, account controller.js. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and copy our first two lines here in our base controller and stick them in our accounts controller. Let's see. For now, the only item that must be required is the utilities file. So we technically don't need base controller, but I have it in here anyway. It's not going to hurt anything. So next we want to create a few new lines, and then we want to copy and paste this login function here. Okay. And he says that, let's see, line 7 of my code begins a new function declaring it is asynchronous and passing in a request, response, and next as parameters. Line 8 on my code, it says, hey, let's go ahead and get our navigation, and we're going to render our account/login view with the title of login, and we want to send the navigation with it, and then we are going to export our build login function here. And as you can see, login is now going to be the title of our view. So keep that in mind. Now let's go over this data trail. He says one of the most difficult tasks is being consistent with data as it moves around within an application. While there are many ways of doing so, a simple and easy way to remember method is to use the database table names for data throughout the application. So the database table names and the fields. For example, in the login view is a form that asks the user to supply an email address. If we open up pgadmin, we'll see that it's the account email field and the password is stored in the account password field. So we want to make sure that we use the names from our database here. It will help us a whole bunch. Like account refers to account table in our database. Okay, so now we're going to build our login view. So in our views, go ahead and in our, where is it? Oh, we're going to create a new folder. Should be account. We're going to create a new file called login. And we know that because right here on my line 9, you see that we're calling account/login. So we've already set this up in our code. And I did not name it EJS, so let me go ahead and rename it login.ejs. Okay. Let's see. It needs to be named according like we said, and then we need the title value. So again, I like to go through and pull out previous code. So let's go ahead and open up our inventory detail. Go back into our login, and sorry, I'm copying the H1 here. I'm going back into my login.ejs and copying the same code so that we have the same code throughout. Now we could actually create a function for this in our utilities file to check for the title, but we're not doing that yet. If you really wanted to, you could play with that. Maybe later on in class I'll do that and we can kind of see how it works, because we're using it a whole bunch. Okay, so let's see. We want the title data for both the title and the H1 elements, which we already have it in the title because that's based in our head. We have the ability to display a flash message. So let's go back into here, and I'm going to uncomment that. And I believe we wanted it. Let me see. Yeah. So just copy it from your index.ejs, the message variable, or the message code, and there we have an unescaped messages variable. We want it to be unescaped so that it can render the HTML versus escaping the HTML and displaying it as plain text. Okay, and he says the display a login HTML form that accepts an email address and a password. The email address will be the username. The form should include a button to submit the login credentials. Enforcement of the input data does not have to be done at this time. We're going to be doing that later. And beneath the form should be a link that allows the user to send a URL. It says it allows the user to send a URL that would request delivery of a registration view. A link to serve up a registration view if they do not have an account. And of course, HTML, CSS that looks professional and is validated. I'm going to go ahead and whip this up, and I will be back when I am done with it. Go ahead and code yours now. Okay, so I got my form in here, and when I went to go look at it, I got an error saying, hey, you do not have an account route that is defined. And it says go look at server.js line 59. So let's go ahead and look at server.js line 59. This is where I have my account route and my inventory route. It says that it can't find it. It's not defined. So I went up here and looked at this, and I realized I did not require my account route to use it. So I have to bring it into scope. This is again why scope is super important and you should always use it. Remember it. It needs to be brought into scope. So now my account route is there. It tells me that it's waiting for a file change before starting, which I just did. Let's see. And this isn't an inventory route. It is an account route. Okay. And it is being used because it went from gray to white, and now I do not have any errors. So let's go back and look at my code. Where did you go? And see it died there. Let's make sure, and now I get a server error. So now something else happened. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so first off, we're going to start in our account controller. We have our build login, and you know what? This is where it's going wrong. In my account route, I said show login view instead of build login view. So let's go back into my controller, copy the actual function name, paste it in our route to deliver the login view, and now let's try it out. And now we have our login view. Mine is somewhat set up because I'm using CSS from before, It definitely doesn't look that pretty. So I'm probably going to go through and make it look a little bit better. But now this should be working just fine. So if you have any issues like I just showed you, I didn't bring into scope the account route, and then the function in the account controller did not match the function that I put in my account route.js. So these are all little moving pieces that you can get stuck on. And so make sure that you follow the path. And the best way to do that is to go from your server.js, start from your account, or sorry, from where you are bringing in your route. So my route is here. Make sure that it is defined up here in your require statements, and then go into that route. Go into your account route.js. Okay, everything here looks good. You're bringing your account controller, your the view that you, or sorry, the link that you are trying to grab, the parameter you're trying to grab in your get is correct with the link that you clicked for account/login. You are going to the correct account controller and the correct function of build login. Go into your account controller, go to that function, make sure that everything lines up, that you have your nav, your build login function is named the correct thing. Your render, you're going to the account/login folder in your views folder. And the title is login, that everything's there, and that you are exporting your build login. Once you have all those pieces lined up, you should be fine and you should be good to go. You should not have any errors. Okay, so that's that for the deliver login view. So now we're going to move on to delivering our registration view, and it's going to be very similar to what we just did. We're going to be creating a new route and serving up a new page and styling it appropriately. Okay, so you'll recall that the path in my account looked like this: href account-login. And then in your view, I should have gone over this, I'm so sorry before, but our link to go to the register form or register page should look very similar to our login. So in our header, let's go back into our header.js, EJS, we had /account/login. Oops. So what we would need to do that would make sense is to go to account / you could say register or new account or whatever you really want to call it. It just needs to be self-explanatory. And then you need to set up your router to match that and your file to match that. So it may be slightly different than what I'm doing here, but it should be pretty darn similar in function and it should make sense. So I'm going to go with Brother Robertson's code, and remember we are using, let's see, he says that recall that the path in my account looked like this: /account/login. The account element was placed in the server.js file as the element in the app.use function, while login was part of the router file to indicate the actual process to be executed if detected in the get object. So sure, we can put our account route in here any day of the week and it'll capture anything that's /account. But without this account route and the actual, or the router, I wish they were called account router, but anyway, whatever. Without this actual route in the router of /login, we wouldn't have gotten to our login page. So we need to ensure that we do that. Let's see. We do this again. So he says that two parts of the path as mentioned are here. We have our account route, use app/account require routes.account route. So you could have done it like this, but we didn't do that because we followed what we did before with our inventory route, right? I don't like having two different things. So in our route section, we just copied what we did with our inventory route and we brought our account router into scope up above. So he's getting me all confused here in these instructions. But anyways, Now in our actual account route, we're going to create the route for our register. So I'm going to fix this code here, or this comment that says route to build inventory detail. We're going to say route to show login form. This one is going to be route to show registration form. Okay. Let's see, build login, and now we're going to change it to registration, or build registration. Okay, I hope this makes sense. And this isn't going to be /login, it's going to be /registration. Okay, so now we've already done the route in there. Now in our account controller, we're going to create a function called build registration. Let's see, where is our controllers? Here we go. And because I like to copy and paste everything, that's what we're going to do again. Deliver registration view. We're going to take this function name, paste it into our function, and account /registration. It can also be reg or new account or whatever, like I said. And this is going to be, the title is going to be registration. So here's our raw page. We're not going to put anything special in it, just our nav, and send it our title. And we can go and make sure we export it. So you can tell it's not exported because it is grayed out. And let's see. Oh. Okay, let's go ahead and send it through our export. Otherwise it won't be viewable to the, or usable by the other files. Okay. And he said that the actual link needs to go to /register. What does he have? Okay, it is /register. I'm sorry, I messed this up. So line 21, we have the link goes to /register, so make sure we use that, okay? So account, we're going to /register, and then in our account route, instead of registration, it's going to /register. So I fixed all that up. In our account route, we have /register, goes to our build registration view, or sorry, controller function. And in our controller, we have build registration. We're going to render the register page, and the title of it is going to be register. And then we are sending through our build registration, which he has build register, whatever. Like I said, you can name it however you want to, however you see fit, or you can just copy the code. So now we're going to create the registration view. So remember, this is going to be called register.ejs. So in our account, we're going to create a new file. That's just register.ejs. And I'm going to go ahead and copy this first bit of code here from our login.ejs and paste it on in there. And then I'm going to go ahead now and create my form. And we should have a first name, a last name, an email, and a password. The email address is going to be the username, and the password will be their password, okay? And he does say that the form should have some limits here. The password should be 12 characters in length, contain 1 capital letter, 1 number, and 1 special character. And again, we're not enforcing these requirements right now. We're just going to add a little some information here under password saying, hey, you must have, these are the minimum requirements for your password, okay? It says optionally, you may have a toggle button to toggle the password from bullets to plain text if you want to. You don't have to. You can also make the password field. You can make it a password field. You can also make it plain text. Of course, the password field is much better so that no one else can see what you're putting in there. And then, of course, style it and do everything you need to. So I'm going to be back after I build this form, and I'll show you the parts of it. Okay, so I have my code in here. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm making sure that I'm still running in my terminal, and I'm going to go in my browser and click sign up. And you'll see that we have our registration form. And again, Brother Robertson put the minimum requirements of our password. Okay, so we tested it, we made sure that it's all working appropriately and that it's styled-ish. Please make yours look, at least like this. Don't leave it just, grayed out or anything. Please take the time to ensure that the form is usable. The forms are, they look nice to be able to use, more or less. We don't want just, plain default CSS styles that the browser gives it. So now that we've done this, let's go ahead and let's process our registration. It says in the registration view, it says the form has two attributes that must be reviewed, added, or altered to make the form send the proper information. And one thing I didn't do is review this with you. I'm so sorry. I should have done this with the login and the register. So remember, Brother Robertson said that the name of your inputs should be account email and account password, because that is what matches your fields in your database table. Please make sure that your name equals or is the same as the field titles in your database. And you can always do that by going into pgadmin and looking at the column names. Let's see, and don't worry about the value right here. Don't worry about this code that I already have. I'm going to actually remove that. And don't worry about the pattern right now. I'm going to remove that as well. Same with my, let's see, value here. This is code from in the future. I don't want to have it here right this moment, although we do want our elements, our form elements, to be required. So let's see. Okay. Now they're all required, and just like I said, the account first name, last name, email, and password, those match our field names in our database. So ensure that your name matches what's in the database. Okay, let's see. We have our register file open here from our view. And let's see, we want to locate the opening form tag and alter the tag if needed to look like the code below. We want the action to go to account/register because, let's see, we're going to be going back to our view to then process the registration. And the method is post, and the reason we use the post method is because it's security by obscurity, and most of the time forms, unless it's a search form, forms will be put in the post so that it is not put in the URL, and it kind of more or less secures the data that is actually being sent through. It obfuscates it. You can't just see it in plain text. Let's see. He says, if you are sharp-eyed, you will have noticed that the path is the same as the one used in the request delivery of the view. However, the post method is different because before it was get. In our account, let's see, account route is router.get instead of router.post. Let me go back to register. If this is too subtle of a difference, then feel free to change register to something different, but make sure it still carries the meaning of what is to be done. So like, instead of just plain old register, you could say register user or something, which I really actually prefer that kind of being explicit. So I'm going to go ahead and change that, because what's going to happen is in our account route, when we are getting, we're going to be looking at the get parameter in our request, and we're going to be looking for register in that, and we're going to send it the build registration view. Now the next thing we're going to do is do a router.post, and that's going to be getting the post param in our request? Well, they're both going to be register, and that can get confusing. I really like to be explicit in these ways, and so I'm going to actually go ahead and kind of veer off, and instead of register, it's going to be register user. That way you know you are serving up two different views. You're not going to serve up the register view again. You're going to serve up a register user process, I should say. Okay, so like I said, we're going to be using the router.post. So let's go ahead and copy this, and it's not going to be /register, it's going to be /register user. So I'm going to need to remember that. And I'm going to route to process user registration. And again, register /user. That way we are being very explicit, very like, hey, this is going to register user. We don't have to rely too much on recognizing, is it get, is it post, is it put, is it, what is it? You see that it's just different. Let's see, okay, everything looks good, there's no errors. Now we're going to go into the account model and create this new register account function. Okay, let's go. Sorry, I have so many files up now because I keep opening all of them up. So I'm going to go ahead and close a whole bunch. I don't want our inventory route or a header detail. Okay, we have our account controller up now. And don't forget to put your function in your exports. Now we're going to be now let's review this new function. We're creating a new asynchronous function called register account. We're going to be sending it account first name, last name, email, and password. And that all comes from this line here in our post. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be the account model. What am I doing? My bad. I'm sorry. Back up, back up, back up. This goes in our model. Okay. I was thinking it looked kind of weird, but Brother Robertson does like to change things up every now and again. Let's go into your models, and we need to create, I should just follow instructions, right? Oh my goodness. We want to create account-model.js. Okay. We're going to add that there. And we also need to get our connection pool, our connection information at the top. So we need our database file. Go back into account model, bring into scope our database connection file. There we go. Okay. So again, let's go ahead and review this. We're going to pull in our account first name, last name, email, and password in our register account function, and we're going to create a new SQL statement saying insert into account. And I'm going to go ahead and format this a little bit. You know what? Instead of using double quotes, I'm going to use ticks, because then I can actually add, I can put this on separate lines, and it's not going to like yell at me. But I really prefer to space out my SQL like so. Because I feel like it's so much easier to read. So insert into account. Your first name, your last name, your account email, account password, account type, values 1, 2, 3, 4, and this references the values here. I'm sorry, yeah, in our parameters. And let's see, not up here in our parameters, what we're passing it. This is the first parameter, the second parameter, the third and fourth parameter in our query. And let's see, and we're going to, let's see, what does the returning mean? And then this returning star, it returns the result of the execution. Oh no, it doesn't. Blah, blah, blah. The returning clause indicates to the SQL Server to return values based on the record that was inserted. It's a way to confirm that it worked. And then the next line, return await pool. This is the result of the query execution, and you'll also see that this is where we pass it the actual parameters. And then we're going to catch any errors and return that error message if we have any errors within our model. So go ahead and save the file. And let's go into the account controller again, and now let's build and you know what we need to do? What we did not do? We did not export our account model. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this code because I like to copy code. It just means less human error. Okay. Now we have this exporting just as we need to. So in our account controller, go ahead and let's see. Yep, he does say create an export statement. Okay, sometimes reading these instructions is really hard. I completely understand. I hope you guys take lots of breaks during this because you need to. So now we are going to create a new require statement to bring the account model into scope. Okay, so utilities, we're going to call it, let's see, account model it looks like. Okay, and we're going to require, in our curly braces, it's going to be // models / account model.js. Oh, and why do I have utilities twice? I don't know what happened there. And what did I do wrong? Oh. So we need to bring our account controller, our account model into scope. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and it's going to be called, let's see, Brother Robertson does give us the name. It's account model. Okay, we're going to require // going up a directory, then back down into the models / account model, and there we go. I won't put the trailing slash there. So then we are able to use our account model. Then we're going to process the registration, and this register account, we're going to see where we're getting that name from. This function name register account is here in our inventory route, our account route, a register account. Remember, those two match always. And we're going to give it our request and our response parameters so we can grab the request and then send out a response. We're going to grab our nav. We're going to, from our request.body right here, we are going to grab our account first name, last name, email, and password. Those are all going to be in scope in our body. We're going to name them as such, and then we're going to pass them directly to our register account function in our model. Account first name, last name, email, password. Now we're going to ask if there was a registration result. So let's look at this. Let's see, where is that registration? Where does it say registration result? Oh, sorry. We're going to set this await. We're going to set any response we get from our model function here to our variable here, reg result, and if it exists, then we're going to create a flash message. It's going to be a notice, and it's going to say, hey, congratulations, you're registered, blah. Please log in. And then we're going to give the response a status of 201, and let's see. In the 201 specifically, I want to make sure I say this correctly. Where does he tell us this? Let's see. The 201 is a success message, basically. There we go. And we're going to render our login view that we already created. Going to give it a title of login. We're going to set it our nav, and that is going to process. We're going to be able to log in now with our new information. Kind of, not really. We will later, but right now we're just registering. Okay, and then if we don't have a result, if the result is null, it's going to say, oops, sorry, the registration failed. And I would even say it's not notice, it's more of an error, but I don't know, whatever. And the 501 states the status of 501 does state that there's an error there. It was not successful. And then we are going to send it back to the register view to try again, send it the registration title and the nav. Now we need to make sure that we export our register account function here. Okay. And let's see, what else do we need to do? Okay, he wants us to look over the data trail. He says in the function that was added, the data collection list and parameter list used variable names that are the same as the column names that exist in the account table of the database. You may ask, why are you mentioning this again? But that's because he wants to repeat it. He wants to re-emphasize the use of the database columns like I have. These all match our database. It creates a very clear trail from beginning to the end, knowing, hey, I'm inserting the first name into the account first name. So the name is account first name, and we carry that all the way through to the database. He says, I strongly encourage you to follow this approach. It will help you keep the data clear as it moves throughout the processes of the application. And I would say this goes for anything like register account. Make sure that this matches your route in your account route, and then make sure that you keep things very similar, like the function here in our account controller is a register account. In our account model, it's register account. Keeps it very consistent so we know exactly what's happening. Okay, so he says, as mentioned in the explanation, in order to collect the values from the incoming request body, we need to make the application aware of that functionality. So we're going to go ahead and add that functionality to our server.js. Let's see, it says open a terminal pane within VS Code. In the terminal, install a new package, pnpm add body parser. I need to stop my current process. We're going to add body parser. When the package is finished, close the terminal, which I'm not going to do because I never do. And then in server.js, locate the require statements and add the body parser to that. So at the very, very top. Scroll down to the middleware section, which is right here. We're going to add some new lines here. We're going to use the body parser. Let's see. And then we'll go over that in just a second. Hold on. Okay. So it says it tells the Express application to use the body parser to work with JSON data. And then it tells the Express application to read and work with the data sent via a URL as well from a form. So let's see, URL encoded extended true for parsing the application. Let's see, the extended true object is a configuration that allows rich objects and arrays to be parsed. The final part is an inline comment pertaining to the entire line. So that's the comment line. So there's no more errors, and let's move forward. He says ensure that all the file names are correct, everything that we've done looks good, and go ahead and run pnpm run dev. See if we get any errors. So far, so good. Open up my file or my page here. I'm just going to refresh the page for kicks and giggles. And the first thing I'm going to do is add my name, an email address, I'm just giving it some random email address, and the password will be just a random password that I use. Oh, it needs to be 12 characters. Okay, so I can show the password or not. I'm not going to. I'm going to hit register and see what happens. Probably throw an error, but we'll see. Oh nope, it looked like it went through. Congratulations, you're registered. Please log in. Wonderful. So that worked beautifully. No errors, no issues. It's exactly what we wanted. Let's go into PG Admin real fast and see the data that's in our database. Okay, so this is open, servers, CC demo, database. Keep scrolling on down, right? Tables, account, and let's go ahead and view data. Looks like there's nothing in there. But we didn't get any error messages. And there's the favicon error, but that's okay. It says insert into, we got that. Executed query. And it did send us back to the login view because it was successful. So what is going on here? Oh no, no, my .env file. Oh no, I'm using, oh my goodness. Well, I'm using the wrong, I was helping a student last week. What in the world? That's what it is. Okay, I'm so sorry. Okay, Grant, I'm very sorry. I was debugging with a student and, oh my goodness. Okay, there we go. I was debugging with a student last week and I had to use my code with his database because there was something going on there. So anyways, now I have my URL correct. I'm going to go ahead and process the submission again and sign up. Let's see, someone at somewhere, and then give it a password. Okay. Register. Hopefully this serves as a good reminder to make sure that you revert changes that you're doing, either helping people or testing errors or whatever. I obviously forgot to do that, which it's going to happen. Let's see if this is here. I still don't have that there. Hold on. Let me just stop my Surface altogether and do it again. This is rather silly and embarrassing, I'll be honest. Okay. Oops. Come on. Let's see. Someone, somewhere. Register. Okay, fingers crossed this actually works this time. There we go. My goodness, it worked. Okay. So, and it does show my password, which isn't fantastic. It's supposed to be, oh, it's not hashed yet. That's right. Okay. So, the password is not hashed yet, but that's okay. But I did get it in my database, which is all that I wanted, and fantastic. So feel free to continue to test it and see where you're at. And hopefully this helps you get through these activities. And you can give yourself a huge pound. Go get yourself a chocolate, a soda, go outside, run around, pull your hair out and scream, do what you need to do, because sometimes this is so intense and it just is so stressful trying to get through these activities that it's just, you need to release. So find your release, a healthy one at that.